I call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome our guests. Mr. White, Mr. Maloney, welcome to our meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Zagami,
Here.
Mr. Feeney,
Here via Zoom.
all right, Mr. Hubbard,
Here.
Mr. Serrano,
Here.
and Mr. Mumford is not here yet.
No, he's
Here.
on Zoom.
Oh, he's on Zoom too? Okay,
Yes, I'm on Zoom also.
thank you, sorry.
No, no worries.
Any public comment? Any public comment? None. Item 4, approval of 11/08/21 Public Work and Utility Committee minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Discussion? Question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 5, acknowledge water and sewer permit and application. I'll accept the motion.
I'll move to acknowledge water and sewer permits and applications.
I'll
Is there a
second.
Yeah,
Second by Roy.
please, I got that.
Yep,
All right. Question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item referred to the committee by village board, none. Educational presentation and reports. Isn't. Resolution and ordinance, there is none. The staff report, CIP update, item 6.
Yeah, I guess I'll just kind of try to touch on some of the highlights. The Birch Street Reconstruction project, still working on getting that into the final design so we can get that out for bidding in a little bit here this winter. Weston Avenue, County Road X, County Road J will be setting a public information meeting for Monday, January 31st to kind of present the project to those along the roadway. We had 3 projects we submitted for the local road improvement program grants. We should be hearing back about those probably in March of this year now, or in 2022. So once we
Are those
Is that correct?
projects they rank at second or third? Do they consider any grant for those projects or they just there?
Yeah, so locally, you rank all the Marathon County projects and then they get sent to the state.
Right.
So if this, I guess I don't know how much the state, necessarily values the county's ranking or if they just do their own version anyways, but, we had, I think there was 11 projects, so, we had 2 of the top 5, so I think that's pretty good. So we'll see what comes back out. Some of it might just be funding availability too and what's able to all be allocated.
Okay,
And facilities, the building is still going up. There's a link there that kind of takes you to our website with kind of updated project photos as you look at it. And we got the lift stations on the agenda for, awarding the construction contract. And AECom's still working out some final details with the DNR for wells 7 and 8. But once those get hashed out, that project will go out for bid this winter, spring as well, so. I guess that's
so that was item 7, right?
correct, or 6.
6 and 7. Utility operation and update.
I have one just quick.
Yep.
That lift station on Tanya and Tricia, is that done? Is that just restoration they have to finish up or is that?
There's still a generator that needs to be installed. I believe that
Yeah.
had a long lead time currently,
Oh.
so.
And I was gonna just bring it up, Michael, now. I think for all these projects, we need the schedule,
Sure.
and I need the schedule, if we're gonna bid it, we should ask, part of the request for proposal is to give us the schedule all the way to the bidding the project. And then they should give a schedule when we want to start the project, which is usually in May 15, or so by the permitting, and when is the end of the project. I think we need the schedule for all of these projects, when they're gonna stop, when they're gonna, yes, there's gonna be change in there.
Yep.
But still, we should have something in,
Sure.
please,
Yep, I can add that in.
okay? Item 7, utility operation update.
Yep, sure. December, fairly quiet month for the utility side of things, with holidays and other vacations and whatnot. A lot of the outside stuff was kind of put on hold with temperatures as well. Not quite as many locates work orders that came up this year, or last month. SCADA, we do have a upcoming meeting set with AECom designer for I think 2 weeks from today, to start putting down some of the design stuff for each of the well houses and lift station locations. On our water side, guys were able to get into a lot of facilities and kind of do some upgrades on some of the leaking lines. We are having to actually pull some old meters, kind of test them. There is a meter shortage for deliveries, so we're kind of pulling some old ones to see if we can use temporarily till we get some new ones in, hopefully in the next few months. We have a need coming up this spring, so hopefully we get some in the short term here.
I thought we always had some reserve and there's some extra meter around.
We always do, but those went away and there's no more new ones getting produced, delivered. It's bad, yeah.
Yeah, we're eating into inventory.
Yeah, so hopefully we get some good news here in the next few weeks that we can get some meters coming our way. Sewer side, we had a brand new Kathleen pump installed. There was an issue with it. We were able to get it back and reinstalled. Our utility guys did assist Dan's crew on a lot of the snow plowing operations as well, over the recent snowfall events. I guess other than that, we did get our emergency response plan. That was part of an EPA that went hand in hand with our risk and resilience that we completed in June. So we were able to certify our emergency response plan just before the end of the year. And then Michael touched on some of the contract side of things. And that's pretty much it for the utility side for December. And we have our customers, water pumped, wastewater pumped, the usual data on the back end there.
Any question here? On the Zoom, anybody have a question?
No.
All right. Item 8, the street operation.
Yeah, I kind of put some numbers together for everybody here showing what the fall leaf and brush pickup cost us and what we ended up picking up. Basically, it's a pretty entailed thing. It takes a whole month to do this, so it's pretty significant with staff usage. Street sweeping, that shows what we picked up last year in sweeping and the cost associated with that. And also the Ryan Street recycling site, what we received in grass and leaves as far as yard waste, that gets turned into compost. The brush gets ground up by Kafka. They'll come grind it, they haul it out. There's no cost to the village other than us maintaining the site. We're still struggling at times with people dropping off dirt, stumps with dirt on them in the brush pile. They will not take that. We actually ended up hauling out probably about a dozen at least, if not 15 quad loads of material that they will not take to burn at the biomass generator down here because there's too much dirt in it. So to police that, it's kind of a challenge yet. Maybe down the line, we'll look at doing something different. Everest Metro PD was called a couple of times where they came up there and people were dumping stuff illegally, you know. There's signs, we put signs up there, it's a battle, it gets old. But it shows you what a cost is, and it's a good service, I think. A lot of residents use it, you know, they'll drop stuff off there and it's pretty handy. After that, it was just typical fall stuff, some shouldering.
Just go back to that brush, that's about 70-some thousand dollars cost,
Total,
right?
yeah, it was 92,733. That was the fall pickup. That's a month's worth of running every day. Every weekday, we're out with 2 trucks, typically a loader and a quad axle truck. The quad axle and the loader would be picking up the brush and that kind of stuff. The other 2 trucks have the vac units on it. They're swap loader trucks that have vacuum units that are placed on the truck. They go and they'll vacuum all the leaves up. It's the same, City of Wausau's got the same thing. They finally bought a second truck up there, but it's the leaf pickup. And that's what it costs.
So that's an internal cost for our employee wages. It's not a cost that we're paying somebody else.
Correct, correct, correct.
And to figure the cost out, what we use is the state of Wisconsin has rates for all the different pieces of equipment. They're generated basically by the counties. Every county turns in every year, they buy a brand new truck or whatever it takes to go into that piece of equipment. Everything, fuel, tires, you name it, all goes into there. They average it over 72 counties and they come up with an hourly rate for those pieces of equipment. Whether it's a bulldozer, grader, truck or whatever. And those are the rates we use that I put together. And we use that as a cost for the equipment. And it's probably the best way to go at it. So that would be labor and equipment to pick up the leaves in the brush. That's what it costs.
Is there any way we can eliminate some of those waste they dump in there? And they shouldn't be there?
We're working on that. The city of Wausau, basically on theirs, they lock their site down and they pay somebody to be there when people are dumping things. They hire people.
Does it help?
Probably, yeah, to a point. You're gonna limit the hours that it's gonna be open though. Now it's kind of wide open. The other thought Michael and I had talked about was possibly fencing it, putting a gate in and you would issue a card to people to use. The people that are dumping up there, that are dumping the stuff illegally are people that are out there doing it, they're contractors. They're fly by night, most of them. I got pictures of some of them because I caught them and called the cops. They come there with a truck and a dump trailer and they're fly by night. They'll go and do work for cash for people and then they go and dump the stuff off there. So the word's getting out a little bit. So we'll just keep working with PD. But the bulk of the cost is just what it takes to push everything up. You know, I mean, it takes time to do this stuff.
Can we have somebody there not full-time and just a couple hours here, couple hours there, uninspected?
Well, that's where like our employees who are out there cleaning it, you know, you know, I mean, so we do have people there, you know, throughout the day, throughout the weeks, you know, during our working hours, but, you know, like Dan
I
said,
never
it's,
saw anybody there from our village hall here. At least, but the hours we go there could be different, but again,
yeah.
you know, it might help some. If people know you're gonna be there uninspected, it may just, you know,
Well, the thought of us also was maybe just putting a camera up.
yeah,
Well, the hard thing is, the good thing is that most of our employees, we've all got cell phones with cameras, so the last ones, you know, they'll take pictures of them. So what I've started doing is sending them to Everest Metro. And we'll just kind of get the word out and they'll enforce it hopefully. It is a good service. I mean, the people,
but definitely is a good service, everybody using it, and you can see the traffic in there when you go, but it's getting abused. And that's a lot of money we're spending in there. And some of them we can eliminate it possibly if we can decrease some of those unwanted waste there.
the bulk of what the cost is there is just the maintenance part of it though. You know what I'm saying? If you look on the scale, Hussein, it's just a thorn in your side when you've got to go there, and people should know better, but that's human nature, you know? And I don't know how we fix it. But after that, shouldering we did, sign stuff, now we're into winter, so it's mostly been snow plowing, and we've been trying to get at some tree trimming and stuff yet. With the weather warming up, we've got some of that to take care of coming up down the line. Our mechanic was injured, so he was off on workman's comp, so a couple of the guys, he's back to work now part-time. And some of the guys just went into the shop and they're doing the fixes. They're changing oil on the trucks and greasing them and doing whatever we need to do, so.
Injured on work, or personal?
Work. This is just talks a little bit about the Eau Claire Bridge, Barbican Avenue. Those are two projects that haven't been closed out completely. We're holding money back on both of those, waiting for spring to come around. Take a look at Barbican, the grass seeding and mulching and stuff. We're gonna have to wait till that comes up and make sure all the restoration's done appropriately. Same with the bridge. Fire has agreed that they'll come back in the spring, take a look at the ride, and if needed, they can doctor the epoxy overlay, they're saying.
You know, they could have done their seeding after even frost in the ground. Actually, that give you a better outcome in the springtime, and it has been done. I use it on the project, it worked.
They did seed, it's just, we don't pay them until we can verify that the grass is growing.
Oh, okay. So they did see that then?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and it was in October late, so it might have been enough to where it goes. Mitch King and Sons, they just moved their equipment and they're gonna start crushing our recycle pile. We do have a pretty good sized pile, and it's a nice blend of concrete and asphalt, so we should come up with some pretty nice recycled gravel out of this. And we've got all the concrete that came off of Westview Boulevard that was pretty much clear concrete other than dowel pins in it that we're gonna crush to make 6-inch minus concrete breaker, which we'll use in places, so it's good. Here's some expenditures, just comparing 2021 to 2020, November and December. We're running almost neck and neck as far as winter, what it costs us. That's labor, equipment, and materials. It's hard to believe. It seemed like last winter was milder, but I think it's just my imagination, so. Then after that, it's just a quick breakdown of what we have for equipment currently and what we use for plowing in the village and town. We got 6 trucks, 2 graders, 2 loaders with plows and wings. We keep a loader stationed here just for loading the trucks with salt and sand. 2 1-ton 4-wheel drive trucks with the 80-foot plows, a 4-wheel drive pickup. And then we have what we call the Lizard, that's the Nick's name. It's a trackless machine that's used for sidewalks and other places. And it just shows 14 staff members, so are needed when we go out with a full plow. We get more than 2 inches of snow, we've got to go plow everything. It's 14 people. That's where we're stealing some of the utility crew to help in with that. 2 employees from the parks. One, Jessica Falkuski, runs one of the plow trucks. Clayton Hirth, he's with Parks Department. He runs one of the loaders with a plow and a wing on it. So when we get a full snow, we've got to get everybody in. And right now we've been keeping up without any problems. Staff has been really good about coming in. It was kind of rough over the holidays, but at least Christmas weekend, it didn't snow. They got to spend some time with their families, so.
I guess the one thing I'd add to that too is this year with some of the new staff and other turnover we've had, about half of the staff out there is plowing in either a new piece of equipment or a route that they've never had before. So I know the first few events, it was a little bit of a training and getting used to experience. And I think as each subsequent event has happened, we've gotten a little better at coordinating and people getting more comfortable with the role that they're in now this year versus previous years. So.
Yeah, yep. Anything else? Any question? No? Okay. Move to policy discussion and recommendation. Item 9, Shuri Avenue utility connection and sewer extension, agreement update.
Yeah, I guess since the last time we met in November, we were able to get a proposal in hand before the holidays happen. So hopefully in the next coming weeks, we can review proposal, discuss with Mr. Gums about, I guess, selecting of contractors and some cost sharing, and move from there, I guess. There's nothing else formal. I don't think that we have to discuss on that, but we do have a proposal that we received for early part of December from an engineering firm for the design and permitting of the extension on Shore Ave.
Who's the engineer or Tucker Harvey gonna do that, right?
We got a proposal from MITech.
From my tech?
Yep.
Anything else on that? Okay. PFAC discussion.
Yeah, so PFAS, thought this would be a discussion we'd be having at some point this year, but, there's a little gift that was dropped in our lap right after Christmas. Rib Mountain Sanitary District put out a press release for, presence of PFAS in one of their wells. PFAS is per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. So I put together a little PowerPoint with a little bit of info for us to go over that will be discussion points moving forward here. So
You have this in any of the wells?
ours currently, no.
Tested, we don't know.
We haven't explicitly tested them specifically for PFAS.
Yeah,
In one of my slides, I'll get to it as well, but we did have, there was some testing done through an unregulated contaminants monitoring program through the EPA that back in 14-15, there were some PFAS that were analyzed.
Mhm.
And two of the more common PFAS were not present. They were under the lower level of detection, so those were reported in 2016, so.
I didn't see a standard for it. Is there a standard for that?
So,
Maybe, if I can just interject,
Sure.
maybe let Josh go through his presentation, because I think he's gonna address some of your questions here.
so I got just, I won't hit on every word on this, the PowerPoint I put together, but, so just quick little background. So per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, they're a group of chemicals that were been in use since the 1940s. There are thousands of different PFAS, some of which more widely used than others. The perfluorooctanic acid, PFOA, and the perfluorooctane sulfonate, PFOS, like I mentioned, are two of the most widely used of the PFAS groups. Common characteristics and concern of PFAS is they break down very slowly and can build up in people, animals, and the environment over time. I just read it up there. So there's, I guess not issues, but so the DNR currently is looking to revise the Wisconsin Administration Code 809 Safe Drinking Water to include a maximum contaminant level MCL for PFOA and PFOS. But they're not following the current Safe Drinking Water Act standard setting process in doing this. DNR has proposed a standard based off of the Wisconsin Department of Health Services proposed groundwater standings or standard, excuse me. Apparently the DNR has never adopted a drinking water standard without first having a federal standard in place. I did attach DNR DG 2419, which is a statement of scope to revise the NR 809 that can be found on attachment A of this. So on the side of that, the Village of Weston, we're a member of the Municipal Environmental Group, the Water Division, and as a group, asked the DNR to wait for the EPA to promulgate a federal drinking water MCL before proceeding to adopt the standard. The comments in response to the DNR DG 2419 is also attached with some of the comments where some of this information came from, like the never setting a standard without a federal standard first. So the Safe Drinking Water Act requires, and this kind of gets into what we found in our wells or didn't find. So the Safe Drinking Water Act requires that once every 5 years, the EPA issue a list of unregulated contaminants to be monitored. So we had this back in 1920, and then a few years prior to that was UCMR3. And UCMR3 was, had could be unregulated contaminants and a handful of those were PFAS. And I went back in ours and looked at some of our results, and the village of Weston had all the PFAS that were in UCMR3 were reported 0 or below the levels of detection. And I guess I should say that the EPA did set a health advisory level of 70 parts per trillion for PFOA and PFOS individually or combined. So I guess back to the Rib Mountain issuing of their press release, their one well, their testing reports, I can't remember, they were putting a treatment plant in, I believe. And as part of it, they ran some tests to check for PFAS, and one of their wells came back with it, and then their test results had PFOA and PFOS above the health advisory limit. So they took that well down. I think it came in at 80 parts per trillion. So we, our UCMR3 data, like I said, were all below, well, they were 0 or below the level of detection. So, I mean, recently the EPA has announced their PFAS strategic roadmap with the goal of establishing MCLs for PFOA and PFOS by the fall of this year, with the final rule issued sometime in 23. And as with that, the EPA also published their UCMR 5. That's going to require an additional 30 chemical contaminants to be analyzed for between the years of 2023 and 2025, which is a step within their a significant milestone in the PFAS strategic roadmap. And I think 29 of the 30 chemicals they're looking for are PFAS. I think the other one was lithium on the list for UCMR 5. I guess some other information where it can be found, you know, PFAS just aren't found in our, you know, groundwater or drinking water. It can be found in soils. A big one is fire extinguishing foams. That's kind of the first time I'd heard of it, based on a well down in Madison that was near an airport. And it can be found in food. Another, it's basically water resistant or water repellent surfaces on carpets and furniture. Like on here in food packaging, a lot of old fast food stuff apparently had some PFAS coatings. We found in household products, personal care products, and biosolids, fertilizers and whatnot. So it's something that's everywhere. They're called forever chemicals because they break down. They're not easy to get rid of. There are ways to remove it from the water situation that we'd be looking at. And I believe I have something attached later on in this that kind of gives a little more information on removals. You know, people can be exposed to, I won't go through all of it, but you know, there's obviously different ways to be exposed. You can get it through the occupations you work in, your drinking water, eating foods that have it, you know, breathing air that could have PFAS. Yes, moving on slides, you know, exposure to PFAS can be harmful. There's still a lot of unknowns because there's just shy of probably 5,000 PFAS out there, I believe. Some of the water side of things that we would be testing, they can only analyze up to maybe 18 to 33 of them currently. So, you know, some of the unknowns are still out there that I know they're, you know, pointed at the PFOA and PFOS as kind of the main ones that we're looking at. So there's still a lot more to be done to find out what we have to do, I guess, as a utility. So as being part of the Meg Water Group, you know, we're kind of taking a stance. I guess Keith, you maybe touch on it as well some, but you know, it's kind of our stance to wait to see what the EPA standard is and what we need to look for as I guess a target limit to start weighing our costs and our designs and what we need to actually get down and what's the safe removal levels for some of our future treatments. So, you know, with some of the DNR stuff, it could potentially, you know, start people down a course of action to maybe one set of removals where maybe it might not be enough, maybe it's too much. So it's kind of a wait and see at this point. I did attach, there's a handout with, you know, kind of some home remedies to remove it with some granular activated carbon, as well as some reverse osmosis systems that can take PFAS out. But in our area, as far as Weston's concerned, you know, the data that we have on hand, it showed we don't have any presence of PFAS, so. Keith wants to add?
So, no, I want to thank Josh for putting this together, and I think it's a topic that we don't have all the answers for right now.
Certainly.
I guess as I've talked with staff here myself, and being the representative who sits on the MIG steering committee, the whole proposal for DNR to go up on their own and set a standard is outside the normal procedure that was established under the Safe Drinking Water Act. So in terms of cost benefit analysis and so forth, I don't think that all the normal MCLs setting guidelines have been followed on this yet, and it's, Wisconsin's not unique. I know Michigan has kind of gone off, I think, and decided to create their own standard, but since we don't have one in Wisconsin, I guess I think it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't proposition to go test for them right now. So I don't think we have any reason to believe we have them, but they are so prevalent in the environment, we're likely to find some now that they have such low detection levels. But I guess my opinion is that we should be relying upon a standard to be set on these before, you know, we're doing anything. So I don't know, I guess we certainly want to bring this to the committee's attention and get some perspectives from maybe, you know, from others here. So I don't know, Michael, John, what you want to add?
I just have a couple questions.
Sure.
Did Red Mountain find out where the source, what is the source of it?
I don't think they ever said what the source was, because it,
I'm not sure if they know. I mean, a lot of their wells are all in pretty close proximity to each other.
yeah.
Is there
It's-
anything in the?
It's likely it's an industrial related process or some type of non-stick activity.
Yeah.
And it's very likely that a lot of people in Weston have PFAS in their homes because non-stick cookware up until very recently, the market mostly had PFAS in non-stick cookware. I know I threw out some of mine just in the last year or two and replaced them with other non-stick that is PFAS free.
And even historically, like, you know, you go get a cheeseburger at a fast food place, it was on the inside of the paper, so your cheese didn't
Yep.
stick on the paper, it stayed with the burger. So, I mean, throughout the years, many of us probably were, you know, eating our cheeseburger, not realizing that this chemical was also attached to it too, so.
So this is gonna be like lead, where some of the exposures are not all through water, they're through
Correct.
other means, other exposures.
Yeah.
Food packaging. Sure, okay.
Do we know anybody in the state of Wisconsin treating it, municipality?
Rhinelander and Madison are probably the two that are going under various studies. I know University of Wisconsin-Madison is working with the city of Rhinelander, but both of those were wells that were next to airports.
Yeah.
Where they attribute to the firefighting foam. So it was the foam for, you know, putting out jet fuel fires that had that substance in it.
So how they treating it?
Well, right now, they just took the wells offline.
Yeah.
That's it?
And
It's not a treatment, that's.
it's not treatment, but I think they're looking at what they can do to treat the well now, so, you know, it's a fairly new, you know, within the last couple of years of, you know, determining, hey, this is something we need to look at treating and seeing if it's in our water supply, so. I guess to the point that Josh and Keith are making, this is all happening very quickly. And, so I guess that's the point of, you can take a well offline, but we should figure out what is that detection level that is considered harmful versus what's just in our environment now.
But taking a well off of a line, that's a pretty expensive proposition. Because you gotta replace that well unless you got abundant amount of water, which we don't.
Yep.
Or you gotta replace it. And no guarantee the other one is not gonna be contaminated, so we should stay up to date with it to see what the other people do. And
Yep.
if we have the problem, then we can take care of it possibly.
Correct.
Anybody else have a question?
No, I don't think you'd chase this either right now until you get some standards or guidance, personally. I mean, you can know what you got, but what is it gonna help you? What is it gonna do? Until you get something set in stone.
Yeah, so I guess that was.
And the Zuma question?
No,
Okay. Josh, anything else? Mr. Downer?
That's all I got.
Yeah, no, I guess we just want to let you guys know what we are doing and keep you updated in case you are hearing any buzz in the community or curious what even that was about, if you've heard anything about the PFAS, so.
Okay. Item 11, Weston Avenue, Pontytron X to Pontytron J, typical section and utility assessment and discussion. Michael?
Yep, at the, it's December, there was a joint plan commission, and village board meeting, where the street typical section and, what was discussed. The main item was, looking at the amount of right of way that was needed after the preliminary design, kind of 30% drawings were done. And seeing what if anything should be done to maybe minimize, that right of way impact, or if the design was really what we wanted. Some of you, I think we're on the committee, back when we started looking at this as part of the Weston Avenue corridor. And we kind of picked some typical sections on the street, kind of conceptually as far as what we thought would fit well. And talking with the design engineers on this, we had initially picked having a two-way left turn lane, a twiddle, I guess, refer to it as, between Von Kennel Street and Ryan Street. So it's, I guess the twiddle also, I guess people maybe refer to it as a suicide lane, where either direction you can use it as a left turn lane. The engineering analysis, the traffic counts, what they predicted, don't really say that it was necessary. So it's kind of and I guess it ended up being an unnecessary part of the project. It might have a slight safety impact, but wasn't really needed based on traffic counts and kind of the current spacing of driveways. So I guess in talking with the board and the plan commission, they were in favor of then not installing the twiddle through that stretch, kind of save on land acquisition and upfront pavement costs, as well as ongoing maintenance costs in that section of the roadway. So I can.
Michael, I think if I remember correctly, we talk about it, no matter what, we're gonna get 100 feet right away.
Yeah, so we'll still try to
Whatever we need right now.
Yeah, we'll still work on getting all the right of way needed for the project or future, but I guess if we run into a hiccup, it might not be a stop on the project either. So I guess what we'd be looking to move forward with is kind of this two 12-foot lanes with kind of a 5-foot paved shoulder. So it's a 34-foot kind of pavement section, as opposed to, I guess basically adding an extra 14 feet in there for the two-way left turn lane. So it reduces that pavement width by 14 feet. And the second part of that discussion was related to the special assessments and how we wanted to handle that. There's the staff proposal to look at it similar to how we handled the Apache Lane project, where we kind of set a maximum of 200 feet per parcel, so if somebody owned, you know, a quarter mile of frontage, they wouldn't necessarily get charged for that, it'd be more along the lines of a typical residential connection. And then if the land is divided in the future, there'd more or less be a connection fee instead of in the overall frontage. So I guess we figured that would be a little more palatable, more reasonable. You know, so we'd have it with the interest deferred connection of the homes, you know, once the private system fails, the property sells, or look at a possible sunset date. You know, on Apache, we use 20 years. So I'm not sure if we use something similar. So I guess just trying to, you know, maybe stay consistent now moving forward with how we want to handle some of these projects where utilities are going into currently unserved, unsewered watered areas. And I guess as we move into the public information phase, we have a room scheduled or reserved at Weston Lanes Monday, January 31st, to kind of go over this initial draft plan set and I guess the kind of the assessment proposal for residents. I know that was one where some of those people have large ones of frontages and we're maybe a little worried that they'd be getting, you know, tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars in assessments for their property.
So for public information, you're gonna have that cross-section as a final?
Yeah, so it'll be updated and kind of go over that typical width of roadway through there.
And from that, 2 12-foot lane and a 7-feet shoulder or 6-feet shoulder and a 10-feet multi-purpose lane and so forth, so on.
Correct.
You need how much right away? 100 feet right away, 110 feet?
I think realistically, we could probably get by with about 80 feet. But, you know, if we want to work, you know, kind of keep in mind that in the future, you know, if there is expansion, if there is a need for, you know, another lane sometime down the road, if we're gonna go through this to buy a 10-foot strip of land, you know, maybe a 20-foot strip of land right away, you know, makes more sense to get that extra, you know, 20, 30 feet, whatever we may need.
I think we should get the 100 feet regardless.
Yep.
How much roadway we're gonna have in there. So in the future, if they wanna do something, they have a luxury of doing that instead of going buying land again.
Sure.
Gentlemen, have a question?
And that is all, there would be no land acquisition then for any stormwater treatment?
So that's all still up in the air.
Depending on what design you go with.
Yeah, I mean, if we need to buy a lot or you know, an area somewhere to put a pond in, you know, that might still need to be done outside of just the roadway footprint. And that might be part of the meeting too, you know, see which property owner, if any, are willing to, you know, sell a little extra land or, you know, would be interested in giving up more land.
It's easier to purchase it now and also is more economical.
Yep.
Than 10 years or after the road develop or some of those property develop. You want to purchase property, I think it's going to be much more difficult. Anybody else have a question?
I'll just add, I concur with Hushang's thoughts. I think it's much more economical to pursue acquisition today than down the line.
Okay, and then I guess the public information meeting isn't like an official Public Works Committee meeting. If you are interested in attending, you know, please do so. But I just want you to know it's not an official Public Works meeting. It's a staff and consultant kind of meeting with the residents. But I would encourage you to attend.
Mr. White?
Are you gonna make sure if there's a quorum of any?
We'll put a notice out there that there's potential for quorum to occur
Okay, just
between the board.
make sure we cover our backside.
Correct.
Yes, we always notice those meetings as potential quorum, but not as any official action by any committee or board.
Okay? And you're gonna have enough plan layout in there to show the people?
Yeah, we'll work on having we'll have a presentation and plan sheets and all kinds of displays available for residents to look at.
Okay. Question? All right, thank you. Item 12, Apache Lane pavement redesign contract amendment.
Yeah, so at the November meeting, we talked about kind of shrinking the pavement width on Apache Lane from 28 to 24 feet. You know, kind of looking at the bid numbers, it would save about $31,000. You guys, I guess, gave me kind of the endorsement to move forward with that, so.
That $31,000 saving on the project?
Correct, in construction costs. So then, if you add in the 6,800 that Clark Dietz said, kind of is their proposal to do the redesign, there'd still be a net savings of about 24,000.
Okay, what's your wishes?
I move to recommend the village board approve the contract amendment with Clark Dietz to reduce the pavement width on Apache Lane and Trotzer Lane to 24 foot for the Apache Lane utility extension project for a redesign cost of $6,800.
Is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second, or whoever.
Question? Is there a schedule for this project?
Yeah, the contract, the construction contract itself has been awarded. It's on, I guess, a winter pause. They got the boring underneath the river done.
Right.
So essentially as soon as the snow melts, they'll start on the street portion, the north side of the river. So I believe we tentatively have a mid-March start date with is it end of June completion?
Yeah.
So yeah, we have a substantial completion of, I believe it's June 30th of this year.
I don't think it could. All right,
But I know they're itching as soon as winter conditions allow for them to start digging and get going again.
all right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 13, Ryan Street, Trozza Left Station Project Construction Contract. That's what, big contract, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's for,
Engineering is what, 93,000 or 83,000?
the inspection is 83,000.
83,000. How long is the project?
It's got an October completion date. Probably a May completion, May start.
And that's not a full-time inspection.
Correct.
Going to contract is a part-time inspection on the project. T&M,
Correct.
okay. Do we know how much they charge per hour for that?
Yep, their rate sheet is in the packet.
But didn't say which one. We have everybody's number in there, but didn't say who's gonna do it.
Okay. Yeah, I can get that breakdown as far as who, the
Okay? You gentlemen have a question?
So the first item here on 13 is the construction results. So Advanced Construction was the low bidder on the project at $943,000. My guess is they were the low bidder because they're also the ones who have the rest of the Apache Lane project, so they already have a crew mobilized and I guess ready to go. So there's probably some scales of economy that they are realizing that the other bidders who are all pretty close didn't have, so. I guess the staff recommendation was to award the project to Advance. The initial estimate for these two projects was 900,000, so it's a little higher. A lot of that, but the estimate was also put together prior to a lot of the COVID items, and I know cost of materials, especially electrical items, has gone up, so.
They're pretty close to each other, really.
Yep.
If you look at them, 943, 1,188,000, 1,033,000, 1,061,000. They're pretty close.
Yeah.
So accept the motion for this project.
I'll move to recommend the village board award the construction contract to Advanced Construction for the Trotzer Lane, Ryan Street lift stations at their bid price of $943,000.
Is there a
Second.
second? Second by Nate. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Okay. Is there anything else in there, Michael?
Not for 13, no.
Okay. Item 14, Ryan Street. Trotzer Lift Station Project Construction Service Contract.
Yeah, so I guess this is then the construction oversight contract with Clark Dietz. It is a not to exceed contract for $82,600, which is about $41,300 per lift station. It's generally within the expected range for construction services on a project.
That's about less than 10%.
Correct, yeah. It's less than, 8.75% more or less.
Okay, what's your wish?
I move to recommend the village board approve the proposal from Clark Dietz for construction services for the Ryan Street and Trotzer Lane lift stations project for a not to exceed price of $82,600.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 15, establish form of agreement for professional services. Mr. Donald,
Well, these are actually two forms of a standard agreement. We had Attorney Edie prepare a recommended standard form of agreement, and having shared it with yourself, I guess you had some thoughts about a different form of agreement. So
I saw he added some to it. He made some
I
corrections.
don't know, did you?
I modified it. I made some of the modifications
Oh, you did,
as far as changing it from contractor to provider and,
right?
Right.
adding in the village shall be an insured or named as an insured on their certificate of insurance. But some of the other things I did not,
Force module was added to it, I thought it wasn't there before.
okay, yeah, I didn't add any of that stuff in there, so. I guess I haven't gotten
So we had asked Attorney Edie for feedback on the form of contract that you had furnished us, so I don't believe we've had any response back on that yet.
no, I have not.
And that was last week, so.
So we can,
I don't know what your, if you've had a chance to go through it, if you had, I know you had made some comments. I'm not sure what your, preference was for one format versus the other.
The main thing was it's just a little bit more organized and easier to follow. Although I think both of them kind of cover same area.
And he's making recommendations on insurance limits
Right,
in here.
right. Does anybody else have any comment on these contracts?
I do not at this time, but I apologize. I did not have a chance to get through the contract review.
Yeah, I did go through it. I thought the timing for termination of contract was not enough, if I remember right. I think Attorney Eady had only 3 days. I didn't think, depend upon the contract. Or depend upon the project. Sometimes 3 days is not enough.
Yeah, so I did make that change to 10 days. I think that was your suggestion, was 10 days.
Right.
Um,
3 days is short time to wrap up the project and file and together and say, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
And we don't want them, they drop everything and hand it back to us, because we're gonna have a heck of the problem to put together, see where they are and what they're doing on the project.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, this is one where maybe I don't know, if there's not initial feedback right now, we can, see. Work with Attorney Eady on any other modifications he maybe has based on some of the feedback we received from Trustee Zagami, otherwise, and then bring it back next month.
Yeah, I can, but I thought you wanna use this contract for
Yeah,
right?
we'd like to, but, if it needs to wait a little bit, or if we,
Oh, you can test the water, but that's all.
yeah, or we can test with one of the versions we have and,
Yeah, use the one from Attorney Eady because he used the WASA and also you made some of those correction in there.
sure,
I can live with it.
okay.
As I said, the only reason was the second format was a little bit more organized and step by step, but
Sure.
Michael, do we need to deal with any sales tax issues at all in these contracts?
no.
No, I don't believe so. It's all for, I don't think I guess we're tax exempt, so.
No, there is no sales tax on these projects.
Okay,
At least
I
for
was pretty sure. I just
professional
wanted to
service.
ask.
Anybody else have a comment?
And do we have any section requiring how the billings are done? Are they required to be AIA, or are you requiring a certain format for billing that would match with the village, for example?
We have not in the past. I don't know if this agreement had any clause in it for it, did it? I don't
No.
think so.
No.
I was trying to look real quick and I
This one
didn't see
has
it.
The second one has it, the first one doesn't.
Yeah,
It's part of the appendix.
Yeah, I mean, I know we usually had monthly, but I don't think we had a standard invoice template that we would require somebody to use.
and would you want to? That would be my comment.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their own internal billing software, it seems, so, or, there's a handful of different ones, so I don't know if we necessarily force somebody to have to use a certain template now.
Especially a paper one.
Yeah.
Let's have to go to the board for approval. Contract.
Well, if we wanna have a test run with the actual proposal, then I suppose we'd take a proposal under this format to them and, with it being drafted by our own attorney, I would think we'd be fine.
Sure.
So what contract are we proposing to put in this format, Michael? Right now?
Well, we've got the sewer lining one with MyTech, and then I guess the construction services with Clark Dietz that, is on this agenda, so.
Okay.
With two out there.
I'll say, let's try it.
I would just, one other comment is you're on 30 days payment. How does that compare with other municipalities or public entities? Is that comparable? Because I sure would love to get paid in 30 days.
Yeah,
That's pretty common. We have that even in our construction contracts, don't we?
yeah, I guess pretty much any contract we've had has been a 30-day turnaround from the time we get billed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just know that in the public realm, large corporations are pushing the least ones that we deal with are 60 days. The longest now is Kraft and they're pushing 120. But it's quite common to go 90. And I'm not recommending we do it. I'm just comparing.
Yeah,
You know,
30 is very standard. Sell produce and then you get paid in 14 days.
the thing with the longer time is sometimes the contractor has an investment out there, buying product, material for the project. And if you want to keep it for 90 days, I think they're gonna have a problem with their supplier.
Yeah, again, I wasn't recommending, I was just curious as to the comparison and, and if we had considered it.
I think usually they consider 30 days because the board meet at least once a month. So that 30 days kind of work with the meeting of the board to approve the payment.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on that subject? Do we have to prove it, Mr. Donner?
Well, I think you're saying that you are in agreement with the form of a contract that's been drafted by the village attorney?
Sure.
I would say, yeah, take action on it, endorse it for us if you would.
I do accept the motion on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just one comment. I had the opportunity to read through both of those. There are some minor tweaks that should be done to that before that's presented. I would assume that was gonna be done.
yeah, I'll make those. There's a few grammatical,
Typos, stuff like that. I think you'd wanna clean it up.
Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, so like the double R in provider here.
Just one of them.
Yeah,
I did provide Michael with a highlighted copy of the things that I saw.
All right. I accept the motion on that.
I guess I didn't put a draft language in there, but if you're looking for something, it'd be probably a recommendation to have the village board approve utilizing the contract reviewed by Attorney Eady based on the city of Wausau for future professional services contracts.
I'll just speak for myself. My only hesitation right now is based off of the way that this was put into the packet. I wasn't expecting us to actually vote on anything. So I didn't read through this contract diligently to know what's in there. So with that, I personally don't feel very comfortable voting on it without knowing actually what's in it.
Sure, yeah, and
That's on me. I didn't take the time to do that, but
yep, no, that's fine. And if you guys don't wanna take action on it, we can make sure we get it cleaned up and revamped and brought back next month too. And I guess in the interim, if we do need to put a contract together, we can work with Attorney Eady, but then have a set template moving forward that is approved by.
I think this contract gonna eliminate a lot of issue with the insurance. And also it cover pretty much the procedure, what the engineering firm has to go through to do the work, the way the village like it. That's the purpose of this contract.
and I respect the need for the contract. I totally see that. It's just without me knowing what words are in there, what we're talking about. That's just me. That's how I operate.
Well, I'll provide the second contract in there, but I agree with the village attorney because he reviewed our contract for the village. And also he make a comment on those. So I think it's a good idea to go with his, because after all, he's a village attorney. What's your wishes? You want to bring it back next month?
That would be my personal recommendation.
Huh?
It's fine with me. I could read it a little better too.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to move that we defer this action until next month's Public Works meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Would you please, everybody just review the contracts? If you don't understand part of it, that's just fine. There's not a big deal, just mark them. Then we can talk about it at the next meeting. Because whatever is in that contract, it has been used over and over in the past with other municipalities and. All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Can we have it next week?
Yep.
Next month?
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay. Item 16, 2022-2026 CIP update. Michael?
Yeah, I guess as we look at kind of getting our capital improvement plan together, we're starting to talk about the kind of the financial aspect of it and the plan there. Prioritizing projects. Attached, I guess, just is a draft currently of where we're at. Kind of the goal is to try to hit about a $3 million mark in the general fund each year, based on what the board endorsed initially as the scenario C, which was that $3 million mark. So I guess I got the years 2022 through 2026 out there. Some years a little higher, some years a little lower, but in general, trying to hit that mark. Some of the projects are kind of grant dependent, such as the Ross Avenue projects, the joint one with Schofield, and then the joint one with the town of Weston. So I guess there's still room to move, maybe projects around or reprioritize, but kind of wanted to get a set of what that feels like on paper. If there is if that's the goal of trying to hit that $3 million mark. So this coming year, we've got the Birch Street Shore to Cross Point project. Finish up the Ross Ave paving on Mesker, and then our utility projects we talked about. I guess the couple things is we hopefully don't get too far into the year that I'd like to maybe be able to start getting started is looking at the well 1 and 5 treatment facility, or the Bladel and Alta Verde wells. That project's likely going to have a longer design time frame as we look at what is the proper treatment technique, and probably running some pilot studies on there. So that's one that we have it listed as a 2023 project. The project years are really the construction years. So we try to get design started the year prior so that construction so we have a good full year, if not a little more than a year, to get through the design process on these various projects. So that's maybe the biggest 2023 project out there that we maybe want to look at getting RFPs out and selecting a consultant yet in the early part of 2022.
If you have an emergency project or something come out, and it is more than $3 million, then what?
Then we talk to the board about what fits. I mean, $3 million is really like I said, it's the general fund impact. The utilities, that they vary. Some years we've got, with the water treatment plant over at Bladel, that's almost a $5 million project in and of itself. So, that'll be one thing we look at this year, is probably trying to find a better, refining the utility, kind of cash reserves or borrowing, making sure we're doing all right with the rates on those. But, I mean, a more than $3 million emergency project, I don't know, it'd be a roadway that kind of would have to blow up somewhere, or a building that just kind of disintegrates out of nowhere. So,
Yeah,
If we had big bridges, I'd say maybe that would be something that could fall under that category, but
yeah, but 3 million is not a lot of money when we get to these construction projects, you know?
true, but like I said, you know, you got a water portion, a sanitary sewer, a storm sewer, and then the general fund is, you know, the roadway itself, the sidewalk or multi-use path. That's the general fund portion of it, so.
Question?
I guess next month I'd be looking to have more of a better description of each project, probably location maps, and then looking to tie this into the financial plan as well. So that, you know, we get, can make sure everybody's on the same page and understands what's all encompassed in each project.
Anybody else have a question? You don't need approval for these, do you?
No, this is just kind of a draft plan and making sure we just keep talking about it until,
Yep.
and it's not a surprise when then we talk about adopting a plan.
Sure. Item 17, recommendation to purchase a replacement scissor lift.
So I guess in that capital plan, we do show a replacement of our existing scissors lift as a 2022 purchase. That purchase was with non-borrowed funds, so kind of our CIP, I guess, cash funds that we put in there. So the budget line item was estimated at 10,000. I guess building inspector, building manager Tatro was looking. He didn't necessarily think we needed a new one, so he was getting quotes from some of the local rental companies on what a used lift would cost.
What's the cost of the new one?
We didn't get a cost of a new one, we just asked for used ones. I think a new one probably would have been a little more than around the $10,000 mark or a little higher. So thought we could probably save some money in just getting a used one. I guess the quotes we got back, one was from Sunbelt Rentals, one was from United Rentals. You know, the low quote was from Sunbelt for $6,200. We did also ask just what the cost to rent this piece of equipment would be. It was right around $500 for a week. So think of, you know, if we rented it for 2 weeks for the next 10 years, it'd cost us, you know, $1,000 a year, if not more. So purchasing it seemed to, I guess make sense financially. Also, in talking with our fleet foreman, he mentioned his previous employer, the mechanics would also use the lifts to do vehicle repairs. We really haven't been doing that because our current lift was always housed over at the public safety building, as it was primarily used for maintenance in the apparatus bay and other areas over there. Then if we needed it for a street light or a traffic signal, we'd trailer it out and take it out onto the road and use it, so.
How often you use?
You know, probably, you know, 3, 4, you know, probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks a year.
Okay.
But like I said, if we had it here, you know, our mechanics would likely utilize it more often. It just wasn't housed in this building. It was over at the public safety building.
Will it reach the height of the new building?
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, Scott made sure of that.
What's that maximum height is 20 feet?
I think it's higher than that. 26 feet.
And one person operation, right?
Correct, yep.
Plus the top of it folds down so you can run it through a regular door.
Yeah.
Yeah, we bought one 16 years ago for $3,000 and it still runs really well.
If you're sending somebody up there, change the light, you need 2 people.
No, just one. Oh, normally, right.
Yeah, you need 1 people hold it, 1 people open and tie it, whatever.
It can fit 2 people too.
Yeah. Any question? What's your wishes?
I'll make a motion, the village board approve the purchase of the used JLG scissor lifts from Sunbelt Rentals for the purchase price of $6,200.
For a second,
Second.
discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 18 is snow plowing practice discussion.
If I can get started and then hand over to Dan.
Go ahead.
Just back in 2014, we had put together a snow and ice control packet strategy that we then had put up on the website, and I guess realized that it's probably about time we update that 7 years after the fact. There's a lot of changes that have been made. Our staff that are listed on that website, I think I'm the only one that's still here with the organization. The plow trucks featured in the packet online, we don't own anymore. They've all been replaced. And some of our practices, such as our salt brining and other things, aren't reflected. So I guess before we go through the exercise of updating it, I guess just maybe looking for some feedback from the committee on, is this useful? Are there other pieces of information you'd like to know about? Is it too much, too little? Just trying to get a handle on what is the best way to put that information out there for the residents.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know.
I went through it today, some.
Yes, I mean, we talked about how much lane miles we plow, our cul-de-sacs, kind of what we have, you know, kind of what our process is. You know,
I have a question for Dan. Marathon County was using Beetlejuice. Is that work below 20 degree?
When I was there, we did a test with some of the county plow sections. Those would be pieces of road on county highways. I actually did a test with 4 different plow sections. We took salt and we just pre-wetted it, mixed it up with beet juice. You can use beet juice, you can use, some of them use like a corn syrup derivative. And realistically, all that does is it helps bind it to the salt. It really didn't make a difference as far as the salt working more. So right now, City of Wausau and Marathon County, City of Wausau's got about a $60,000 salt brine setup where it's computerized mix. I think they bought it through Cargill. But they've got different tanks and you can make all the different blends you want. But basically at the Highway Department and the City of Wausau too, you're running about 75% salt brine. Then you'll use about 10% of either beet juice or corn syrup, depending what you can get. That's to help it stick to the salt. The other 15% is typically magnesium chloride. The reason you use magnesium instead of calcium chloride, years back when I started at the Highway Department in 1990, we were using calcium chloride.
Right.
The problem with calcium chloride and even magnesium chloride is if you get too much of it on the road, what happens is it draws moisture. That's why you use it on a gravel road in the summer, to draw moisture and keep the dust down.
Right. Yeah.
When you coat a road with it to the point if you keep using, and that's what happened years ago when we first started using, when I first started there using calcium chloride, we didn't have the technology that's available today. And that's what's nice about the village of Weston, that the trucks we have now have the tanks where you can use your salt brine or whatever, you can turn it off and on. Years ago, we had a sprayer, you backed the truck underneath full of salt and sprayed it full of calcium chloride. They went out and spread it out on Highway 51. Well, if a little's good, a lot's better. No, because when you get too much residue on the road, what happened, you get a light snow, it would melt and refreeze, and especially you get temperatures like this, you can't get it off. It gets unbelievably bad. Lauren had sent an email about anti-icing. You'll see the county and the state is real proactive at going out and spraying all the time. They're spraying a lot of things. If you look at the roads right now, you'll see the salt residue that's left on the roads. And you don't need to anti-ice now. There's enough salt laying there where you don't really want any more on there. The perfect storm, or the perfect storm would be, and Michael had that in there from 2014. If you would get enough snow, or you would put enough salt down just to melt the snow, you'd clean the road off and there was no salt residue left on the road. that would be perfect. Because what happens is when it gets cold out, like the county goes and they spray, okay? You go and spray everything, you get a little dusting of snow, it acts just like that calcium chloride or like the salt residue. It'll melt and it'll refreeze. So if you get a lot of snow, it doesn't matter, it helps keep the bond, but if you get a light dusting, you actually create ice then. Just like here. When they shovel the sidewalk out front, if they salt it every time, I shovel it sometimes, I shoveled part of it this morning. If you salt it every time, you get that sticky residue under it, you actually make ice. So the best thing to do is not overdo it. So anti-icing is good for frost, that's the best. If the conditions are right, it works. To put this in a nutshell, where we're sitting right now in the village of Weston, the 6 plow trucks we got all have ground speed driven controllers, salters. So that means is when you take off driving, the salter will kick in and go. You can set the rate. You can set the rate of how much liquid you want to put on it too. We don't have our own brine maker right now. Hopefully we're gonna get one. I'm assuming we will. For now, we go up to Marathon County and we'll buy salt brine from them. When it gets this cold, we typically don't use it. When it's 20 degrees out and snowing, we'll use the salt brine to help get the salt working right away. Once it starts to snow, if you're gonna get a 3, 4, 5 inches of snow, you don't need to use brine every time because you'll have enough moisture to make it cut. So right now, that's what we're doing. But the positive side is that over the years, they've really moved ahead by buying new trucks. The trucks we have now are gonna last a long time. They're kind of state of the art. They're top of the line stuff as far as having the ground speed driven controllers. They've got the pre-wet kits on them. So we're sitting pretty good that way. So I think that's a good thing. We've gone to 2 graders. I started working on this a little bit. I apologize. I'm gonna get through it because I want to take new pictures. But I think what Michael has in there from 2014, when you look at it, it's probably the response part is where I think the public can look at it and say, this is what our expectations are. You know, here's what you can expect to see. And that's kind of where it's turned level of service, you know? And I think Weston is right in there when it comes to, as far as our response, it's really close to the city of Wausau. I mean, when I was there, we're doing pretty much the same thing they are. The only difference with them is they will run an overnight shift where we will typically shut down and come back out early the next morning. The reason the city of Wausau will come back at 11 o'clock at night and plow is because they have so many more narrower streets. And they have more street parking too to deal with than that. It's easier for them to go out in the middle of the night and clean it up. Where with us, we come back, we run more like Marathon County does. When it's snowing, we'll run till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, park the trucks, come back in at 4 in the morning and take care of business. Unless it's freezing rain or something where we have icing conditions. So I think what Michael's question is do you have any input? And mine too. What do we want to put out on the website? I guess, as far as what you've seen living in the village of Weston, is our response adequate? Is that what the board is looking for? Because that's going to drive the level of service that we're going to put out for the public and say, these are what your expectations are, you know? This is what we're going to do, and hopefully you can live with that. And that's kind of what Michael had up there, a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. So if we only get that inch of snow, we're gonna go out and hit all the main streets. We start getting closer to 3, we're gonna go and take care of everything. We're gonna go and try and hit all the streets, and typically the cul-de-sacs too even. If we're getting up to that 3 inches of snow, we're out there plowing everything, and away we go. Hopefully I didn't rattle on too long.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you don't have anything right now, that's fine. If you go home, take a look at this, have thoughts, or, you know, as you talk to your neighbors or family members and people are like, hey, how come, you know, they plowed your road, but they didn't plow my road? And you go, well, I live on, you know, a major street in the village where everybody comes, and you just live on that, you know, 4-house dead end road. So, you know, I guess those are things that we try to communicate with people and get them to understand is, unfortunately, every road we don't plow the same. And it's not because we like certain people and don't like other people. It's just some roads are driven on by more people than other roads. So, you know, we want to make sure that those roads that most people drive on are taken care of first, and then clean up a lot of those, side streets, low volume streets, so.
I think you kind of organize it pretty nicely because you have how much snow and at what level, what you do. You also provide the map of the area you're applying and also show your equipment and also you explain how many miles you have. And
Okay.
And I think it's important, the perspective that we got at the beginning of the meeting, that you have a lot of new people learning new equipment and learning new routes. And that's something that as a resident, most of us aren't aware of. So we're like, well, why is it taking longer than I remember it to take? And there's a lot of new things that people are trying to figure out. And I think that's important for people to know.
Yeah, I mean, and the goal is there hopefully by the end of the winter and, you know, that gap isn't there anymore and it's continues on. But yeah, I mean, there's always some staff training that takes a little bit of a learning curve, and this year was, you know, a lot more. It wasn't just, you know, 1 or 2 people, it was, you know, 6, 7 people that were learning new things, so. Hopefully that's done for a while now.
so are you gonna put this one on the website and also on the newsletter?
Yeah, so we'll update this and, you know, come back with you with kind of the revamped version with our current equipment and make sure we're all in agreement, you know, just so you guys know too, you know, this is what we believe the expectation is of how our plowing should be done. And I guess we want to make sure we're all on the same page with that, so.
You probably hear more about the expectations of the community than we do, so.
Well, we hear the expectations of certain individuals, so. Maybe it's not as bad as, you know, some people in the community make it seem either, so.
There hasn't, I don't know about you, Michael, I haven't really taken a lot of complaints this winter from people, you know. There's the mailboxes that get hit, but as far as with the roads themselves, the service, the level of service, I think we're pretty comparable to the neighbors around here, you know, the adjoining communities, and I think that helps too, you know. The consistency is kind of a big thing, I think, and as long as we try to even internally be consistent with how we respond to things, then the people that we're serving are satisfied.
Question?
Shane?
Yes,
I get a few phone calls
okay.
and I called Michael and Dan once, but Michael a couple times. And once Michael told me about the new people, new routes, new equipment. And I shared that with some of the calls or maybe some of my neighbors, it was done. And I saw a huge noticeable, you know, once they got that first route done and that first initial snow, I haven't heard a thing. And I think the roads are great. There's a lot of times I think I'm getting special attention. And so I drive around to make damn sure I'm not. But, and then sometimes, well, this last one, I actually thought they put more snow in my driveway than they should have, but I didn't say nothing. So. But I think we do a great job. Good job.
Thank you.
Is still DOT come and rate you or anybody rate you after the snowplow?
What's that? What?
No, I guess the DOT, I don't believe they ever rated us on our snow plowing. I think that was more of an internal thing that previous administrators
Right.
would do. But,
Wait for Mark to call us.
yeah.
Right.
All right. Item 19, next meeting Monday, January 10th, well, that's today. I don't know why it's here. Monday, January 31st at 6 p.m. And Monday, February 14th at 4:30 p.m. Monday, March 14th at 4:30 p.m. Item 20, topic for future meeting. Anybody? Remark from administrator, Mr. Donner,
Nothing.
Understand what you're saying.
or from staff?
Nothing.
Remark from committee member, anybody? Anybody on Zoom?
No,
No.
Okay,
Yes.
just everybody know on Zoom, this is the conclusion of the Public Works Committee meeting, and the Plan Commission meeting will probably start in about 5 minutes.
On southeast corner of the Schofield Avenue and Birch Street, those lights are off.
Yep,
Is that purposely?
the drivers are out in them, so they have to be replaced. I believe Scott ordered lights for them a couple months ago and they're still not in, so.
Other places also out? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of those sidewalk lights are out, I think at Alderson as well, so.
Okay. There is no announcement. I'll accept the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 I have it. Thank you very much.